It was a quiet summer morning in the small yard of an apartment building. Neighbors were leaving for work, kids were hurrying to school, and the air still smelled of fresh bread from the nearby bakery. Max, a curious 10-year-old boy, was getting ready for school. He reached for his favorite dark blue shoes with white laces, a birthday gift from his dad. But to his surprise, only one was by the bench where he had left them after playing the night before. "Mom," he shouted from the yard, "there's only one shoe here." His mom peeked out the window and called back, slightly annoyed. "Maybe you misplaced it?" "Look again carefully," but Max was sure he'd left both. Just then, behind the lilac bush, he spotted a familiar furry face. It was his dog, Buddy. Buddy looked very pleased and had something that looked like a piece of fabric in his mouth. "Buddy, do you know something?" Max narrowed his eyes, and just like that, a simple morning turned into the start of a real mystery. Max crouched down and studied the ground near the bench. There were paw prints, not just Buddy's, but a few smaller ones too, going in all directions. "Someone's definitely been here," he muttered. Buddy seemed to understand the mission and started sniffing the ground eagerly. His tail wagged as he followed a scent trail, pulling Max along. They circled half the yard and ended up near the raspberry bushes. There, under the leaves, Max spotted a torn piece of cloth, the same one Buddy had earlier. It smelled like food. Wait, someone used this to lure the shoe away? Max guessed. Suddenly, Buddy growled and started scratching the ground by the fence. Max bent down and saw something strange. Tiny cracked nutshells and a little tooth mark on a piece of old shoe leather. "That's not from a dog," Max whispered, "and definitely not a person." Buddy barked and looked toward the shed where a narrow trail of prints disappeared. Max's heart skipped. The mystery was just getting started. Max and Buddy crept toward the old wooden shed in the corner of the yard. The door was slightly open and something inside was rustling. Buddy perked his ears and gave a soft growl. "Easy now, Buddy," Max whispered. "Let's see who's in there." He peeked into the dark corner and nearly laughed out loud. On top of an old pile of hay sat a tiny kitten. It was digging through some old rags, clearly looking for something. "You?" Max blinked. "You're too small to carry off my shoe." The kitten meowed, dashed out of the shed, and disappeared into the bushes. Max sighed, but just then, Buddy barked again and ran to a shadowy part of the shed. There were more tracks, not from a dog or a kitten. These prints were narrow and long, with tiny claw marks. They looked just like rat footprints. "Now this is interesting," Max murmured. "Could a rat really take my shoe?" Buddy barked again and followed the trail leading beyond the fence. The adventure was turning into a full-blown detective case. Max and Buddy followed the trail outside the fence and found themselves on a path leading to an old walnut tree. Two noisy pigeons were perched on the branches, loudly flapping and cooing. When they spotted the boy and the dog, they tilted their heads and got even louder. "You guys seen anything?" Max asked, half joking. He wasn't expecting a reply, but one pigeon bobbed its head and cooed sharply, while the other flapped and let out a loud "cuckoo." Buddy barked, as if translating for Max. "Cuckoo!" Something ran past with something big, the first seemed to say. "Coo-coo-coo!" Headed toward the old pipes behind the garages, added the second. Max's eyes widened. "So the thief went that way," Buddy barked and tugged on the leash, pulling Max in the direction of the garages. The trail was heating up, and Max was sure they were getting closer to solving the case. They reached the row of old garages, where a narrow alley ran between metal walls. It was dark and smelled like rust, But Buddy was on a mission, sniffing, growling, and pulling Max along. Finally, they reached a pile of old pipes and wooden boards. Buddy stopped, growled, and barked at something in the pile. Max leaned closer and saw it, a twitching shape among the junk. A large gray rat poked its head out. Its eyes gleamed, and under its claws was a familiar white shoelace. "There you are," Max shouted. "That's my shoe." The rat squeaked and tried to drag the shoe deeper into its nest, but Buddy jumped forward and barked so loudly that the rat dropped the shoe and vanished into the shadows. Max pulled his shoe from the pile. It was scratched, but still okay. "Wow," he breathed. "A rat was the thief all along." Buddy held his head high as if to say, "Told you so." With his shoe in hand and Buddy by his side, Max returned to the yard. A few neighbors had gathered, watching curiously after seeing him run around all morning. "Well, did you find it?" asked Mrs. Oksana, who was walking her cat. "I did," Max grinned proudly. "A rat stole it and hid it near the old pipes." The neighbors laughed in surprise. "Oh, those rats! They'll take anything," said Grandpa Peter. "I once lost a whole bag of rice, found it in a rat hole days later." "I thought dogs were the ones causing trouble," said another neighbor. Max held up Buddy proudly. "Not this dog. Buddy helped me find it. I couldn't have done it without him." Buddy wagged his tail happily, and the kids nearby clapped. Max felt proud. This little mystery had turned him and Buddy into the neighborhood's very own detective team. When Max got home with Buddy, his mom was waiting at the door. In his hand was the infamous shoe, a bit scratched, but back where it belonged. "No way, you actually found it?" she asked, surprised. "I thought you lost it for good." Max stood tall. "Buddy and I solved the mystery. It was a rat who stole it and hid it in his hideout." His mom smiled and patted his head. "Good job, sweetheart." "You really paid attention and didn't give up." That evening, Max sat outside with Buddy and said quietly, "You know, I learned something today. Never blame someone without proof." "I thought you took the shoe at first." Buddy licked his hand and gave a cheerful bark, as if to say, "It's okay." From that day on, Max became more observant and trusted Buddy more than ever, and everyone in the neighborhood knew. If another mystery ever came up, Max and Buddy would be the detectives to call. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.